Video 2. Types of filters and tints. For most patients, the visual world is perceived as colorful and informative, providing vital cues about their environment. Objects are identified by their hue or color, brightness, and saturation or intensity of color. This phenomenon can be influenced by modifying the lighting conditions or applying a tint or filter, which can alter one or more of these parameters. Understanding these factors is crucial in optometry, as they play a significant role in vision and perception of the world. So, what is the difference between a tint and a filter? Tints usually have an approximately uniform application of color to an entire lens, affecting the overall spectral transmission of light through the lens. This changes the wavelength balance, reducing the intensity of transmitted light across the spectrum. The primary mechanism involves some absorption of light, which results in altered perceived color and brightness without selective wavelength blocking. Tints are generally characterized by their color, density, and the amount of light they transmit. Filters are optical elements that selectively block or transmit specific wavelengths of light based on their design. They work by either absorbing or reflecting certain wavelengths while allowing others to pass through, leading to selective wavelength attenuation. This results in the alteration of the spectral composition of transmitted light. Filters can be designed to target narrow bands of wavelengths, providing high specificity in modifying color balance and contrast. Key parameters for filters include their wavelength range, peak transmission, and optical density. In color space, tints can be represented as a shift along the value or brightness axis, while maintaining the chromaticity coordinates, that is, hue and saturation. When a tint is applied to a lens, it alters the overall luminance level without selectively modifying specific hue or saturation values. The position of a color in the color space, specifically on a chromaticity diagram, remains constant, but the perceived brightness of all colors is uniformly reduced or modified. Filters, on the other hand, create a more complex alteration in color space. They selectively attenuate specific wavelengths of light, resulting in changes to both the chromaticity coordinates and the value of colors. This means that filters can shift colors along multiple axes in color space. Depending on the design, filters can alter the hue by changing the dominant wavelength, modify saturation by affecting the purity of the color, and adjust brightness by varying the overall light. The exact position in color space after applying a filter depends on the spectral properties of the filter and the original color. In summary, tints primarily shift colors along the value axis while maintaining hue and saturation, whereas filters can alter all three dimensions, hue, saturation, and brightness, resulting in complex transformations in color space. Univariance is the principle that the response of a single photoreceptor is determined by the number of photons it absorbs, irrespective of the photon's wavelength. This means that a single type of photoreceptor cannot independently encode information about both the intensity and the wavelength of light. Instead, it can only signal the overall rate of photon absorption. In more technical terms, the output signal from a photoreceptor is a scalar value that represents the product of the spectral sensitivity of the photopigment and the spectral distribution of the incident light, integrated over all wavelengths. Univariance is a fundamental concept in understanding color vision. When tints and filters absorb light, they alter the spectral distribution of the light that reaches the eye. The ambient light, or the light present in the surrounding environment, plays a significant role in this process. The characteristics of the ambient light, such as its intensity, color temperature, and spectral composition, directly influence how tints and filters modify the visual input. The intensity of ambient light affects how much light is available to be absorbed or transmitted through the tint or filter. In bright conditions, the impact of the tint or filter may be more pronounced, while in dim conditions, the effect may be less noticeable. Tints uniformly alter the overall spectral transmission of light, affecting its intensity and color balance. They absorb certain wavelengths more than others, leading to changes in brightness and hue. Filters selectively block or transmit specific wavelengths, resulting in changes to the spectral composition of transmitted light. This selective attenuation affects the hue, saturation, and brightness. When ambient light interacts with a tint or filter, the resulting spectral distribution of light affects the photoreceptor's response. The final response is a product of the altered light input and the photoreceptor's inherent properties, which follow the principle of univariance. The ambient light is a critical factor in the final effect of tints and filters. It influences the spectral distribution of light that reaches the eye, which, in combination with the properties of tints, filters, and the principle of univariance, determines the final visual response. Light sources are usually specified as a color temperature. This is a measure of the hue of a particular type of light source, expressed in degrees Kelvin. In the context of color space, color temperature influences the chromaticity coordinates, particularly within the CIE 1931 color space. Chromaticity coordinates are derived from the tristimulus values and represent the chromaticity of a color within color space. The color temperature of a light source can be plotted on the chromaticity diagram, with different temperatures corresponding to different coordinates. The Planckian locus is the curve on the chromaticity diagram that represents the chromaticities of blackbody radiators at different temperatures. It ranges from reddish at low temperatures of around 2000 Kelvin to bluish at high temperatures around 6000 Kelvin. Each point on the Planckian locus corresponds to a specific color temperature and associated chromaticity coordinates. Color temperature affects how colors are rendered under different lighting conditions. A light source with a lower color temperature will shift colors towards the warmer end of the spectrum, while a higher color temperature will shift colors towards the cooler end. This shift can be represented on the chromaticity diagram as a movement along the Planckian locus. The color rendering index is a metric used to evaluate how accurately a light source renders colors compared to a reference light source of the same color temperature. High values indicate better color rendering. It is affected by the color temperature, as different temperatures may have varying spectral distributions that influence color perception. The spectral power distribution of a light source describes the intensity of light at each wavelength. It determines the chromaticity coordinates and, consequently, the color temperature. A light source with a continuous, smooth SPD across the visible spectrum will typically have a higher index and more accurate color rendering. There are a number of types of tints and filters commonly used in practice. Broad-spectrum tints. These are designed to transmit a wide range of wavelengths across the spectrum. They are often used in applications where a broad range of light needs to be transmitted or blocked. Most optometric tints are broad-spectrum. They do not have as great a physiological effect and therefore they can be used cosmetically. They are used in sunglasses and have little effect on color. Bandpass filters. Bandpass filters allow only a specific range of wavelengths to pass through while blocking all others. They are a combination of short-pass and long-pass filters, filtering out wavelengths that are too short or too long. They often have significant physical effects and must be supplied by knowledgeable professionals. Notch filters. Also known as band stop or band reject filters, notch filters block a specific range of wavelengths called the stop band while allowing wavelengths outside this range to pass through. They are useful for isolating interference in applications involving multiple signals. Variable transmission tints. These filters can adjust their transmission properties based on external factors such as light intensity. The most common type is photochromic. Polarized lenses are a type of optical filter designed to reduce glare from reflective surfaces, such as water, snow, or glass. They work by blocking specific orientations of light waves, particularly horizontal ones, which can be responsible for glare. They contain a special chemical film that filters light. When light waves reflect off a surface, they typically travel in various orientations. Polarized lenses allow only vertically oriented light to pass. Typically they stop at least 50% of light. While polarized lenses are excellent for reducing glare from reflected light, they may not be ideal for all situations. They can sometimes make it difficult to see digital screens clearly, such as those on car dashboards or smartphones, and cause problems with toughened glass windscreens. Vista mesh lenses are an interesting concept lens. The lenses incorporate a micromesh filter that aligns scattered light reflections, dampens flicker, and blocks electromagnetic radiation. The brown contrast filter in Vista mesh lenses enhances visual clarity and sharpness, making it easier to see details. This reduces blue light. Vista mesh lenses come with an anti-reflective coating that reduces glare and reflections and offer UV 385 cutoff protection. Dichroic lenses, also known as dichroic filters or mirrors, are optical components that selectively transmit light of certain wavelengths while reflecting others. They are constructed using thin film technology, which involves depositing multiple layers of dielectric materials onto a glass or transparent substrate. The unique properties of dichroic lenses come from the interference of light waves as they pass through or reflect off these layers. When light waves reflect off the different layers of the filter, they interfere with each other. This interference can be constructive or destructive, amplifying certain wavelengths of light while cancelling others out. The precise control over which wavelengths are reflected and which are transmitted is achieved through the use of thin film coatings. These coatings are made up of many layers of dielectric materials, each with a different refractive index. The performance of a dichroic filter depends on the angle at which light strikes its surface. Changes in the angle of incidence can shift the wavelengths that are transmitted or reflected, making the filter's response angle dependent. In optometry, dichroic filters, using thin film interference, may selectively block blue light while allowing other wavelengths to pass, making them valuable in eyewear. Anti-reflection coatings, meanwhile, consist of multiple dielectric layers that reduce reflections and increase light transmission through destructive interference. The appearance of tints can vary significantly under different lighting conditions due to the interaction between the light source and the tint. Different light sources have different spectral power distributions which describe the intensity of light at various wavelengths. Tints are designed to selectively transmit or reflect certain wavelengths of light. The color we perceive in a tinted object is the result of the specific wavelengths of light that are transmitted through or reflected off the tint. Metamerism in lenses occurs when the perceived color of a tinted lens changes under different lighting conditions due to variations in the spectral power distribution of the light sources. This phenomenon happens because the light transmitted through or reflected off the tint interacts uniquely with each light source's spectral composition. This variation in appearance highlights the importance of considering both the tint and the lighting conditions when assessing the visual performance of tinted lenses. Macadam ellipses are regions on a chromaticity diagram that represent the range of colors indistinguishable to the average human eye from a specific color at the center of each ellipse. These ellipses are used to quantify color differences and visual sensitivities. The concept was introduced by David Macadam in 1942 through experiments where observers adjusted colors to match a test color. The resulting matches formed ellipses on the CIE 1931 chromaticity diagram, with each ellipse containing about 39% of the color match points. Larger ellipses contain higher percentages of match points, indicating greater color differences. Macadam ellipses are crucial where color consistency is important. They help define the acceptable range of color variations, ensuring that light sources appear consistent to the human eye. We can define the color in terms of best position and a gamut in which vision is optimized. To define the best position for a color within a 6-point gamut in the CIE 1931 color space, we first need to consider the center point of the gamut. Here's an example for a cyan gamut. Specified color equals cyan. CIE 1931 coordinates, x equals 0.3, y equals 0.6. 6-point gamut around the specified optimal position and specified desired coordinates. The best position for the specified color cyan is at the center of the gamut, with its coordinates defining the optimal location within the defined 6-point gamut. This ensures that the color is well represented within the range of the gamut points. When prescribing tints, professionals must navigate several ethical considerations to ensure patient safety and well-being. Patients should be fully informed about the benefits, risks, and alternatives of tint prescriptions. This includes explaining how tints work, potential side effects, and any limitations. Respecting the patient's right to make informed decisions about their treatment is crucial. Professionals should provide all necessary information and support patients in making choices that align with their preferences and values. The principle of do no harm requires professionals to avoid prescribing tints that could potentially cause harm or discomfort to the patient. This includes considering any contraindications or potential adverse effects. Professionals should act in the best interest of the patient, ensuring that the prescribed tints provide a clear benefit and improve the patient's quality of life. Staying updated with the latest research and advancements in tint prescribing is essential. Professionals should engage in continuous education to maintain their competence and provide the best possible care. Maintaining patient confidentiality is a fundamental ethical obligation. Information about the patient's condition and treatment should be kept private and only shared with authorized individuals. Ensuring that all patients have equal access to tint prescriptions and that decisions are made based on clinical need rather than personal biases or external pressures. In the UK, tints for eyewear are categorized based on their range of luminous transmittance, which is the percentage of visible light that passes through the lens. The categories are as follows. Category 0, clear or very light tint, over 80% to 100% transmission. Category 1, light tint, over 43% to 80% transmission. Category 2, medium tint, over 18% to 43% transmission. Category 3, dark tint, over 8% to 18% transmission. Category 4, very dark tint, 3% to 8% transmission. For road use and driving, only tints in categories 0, 1, 2, and 3 are considered suitable. Additionally, the spectral transmittance of these filters must meet specific requirements to ensure visibility of signal lights. Why are these standards illogical? The standards do not account for varying illumination levels. Different lighting conditions, such as bright sunlight, overcast skies, or indoor lighting, can significantly affect how tints perform. A tint that works well in one lighting condition may not be suitable in another. The standards do not differentiate between different types of light sources, such as natural sunlight, fluorescent lights, or LED lights. Each light source has a unique spectral power distribution, which can interact differently with tints, affecting their performance and the wearer's visual comfort. People have varying sensitivities to light and glare. Some individuals may require specific tints to manage conditions like photophobia, migraines, or visual stress. The current standards do not provide flexibility to accommodate these individual needs, potentially leading to discomfort or inadequate protection for some users. In summary, while the UK standards provide a basic framework for categorizing tints, they fall short in addressing the complexities of real-world lighting conditions and individual visual sensitivities. This can result in suboptimal performance and user experience.